Wait, you just said he supports you and he pushes, so it's kind of like, get over there and get...
In a way, yes.
Sorry, go
yes.
ahead.
So he supports me, and he loves, to see me happy and doing what I love to do.
I've been on a journey traveling the world, exploring new food, new cultures, and people, listening to their stories along the way, and experiencing my own. Welcome to The Journey.
Or stuff to move up and everything.
I'm scared of heights, but apparently almost everybody he's working with, even if they're in airborne, they're scared of heights.
Really?
Yes. That's what threw me. I'm like, how are you going to go and practice airborne, but be scared of heights?
Right. So, are you scared of ghosts?
No.
No?
No.
I mean, I guess that would be
I'm
good
curious.
reason.
So, it's more of like, the way to describe it is more like a high.
Okay.
So, like that adrenaline?
So, it's kind of like a roller coaster for you.
Yes.
Like
but
you
I'm
want to be
terrified
scared.
of roller coasters.
You're
yes.
terrified of roller coasters.
Yes, I can't stand them. And I get motion sickness very easy.
Really?
Yes. And it sucks because I want to do everything because my husband's really into the amusement parks.
Right.
And he enjoys roller coasters. But if he gets me on one of those, my day's done.
Is he afraid of ghosts?
He does not want nothing to do with those.
So you're like, I don't want to say polar opposites, but he likes the roller coasters. You don't. And then you like the ghosts, but he doesn't. But you both have your kind of like, I guess like...
He supports it from a distance. So he's the one who pushed me into kind of...
Wait, you just said he supports you and he pushes, so it's kind of like, get over there and get...
In a way, yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
So he supports me, and he loves, to see me happy and doing what I love to do. That's what that's what drives him, to be around. He's here at the coffee shop with me every weekend. He loves, being around it and hearing about it. He's slowly getting used to the ghost and the spirits and everything, but at first, when this was, all new, when we first moved down here, he was not into it. He was like, just keep it away as far away as you can from me.
So, Courtney, obviously, we met last week.
Correct.
I came in here for the first time, tried some cold brew coffee. I really liked it. Also, I don't remember the name of it, but it was the mixed, the blended iced coffee.
You got a graveyard dirt.
Graveyard dirt. That's right, with the
gummy worm.
The gummy worm in it, and that was pretty good too. But what is your background when it comes to coffee? We're going to talk about a couple different things, but when it comes to coffee, what's your background when it comes to coffee?
So my background, it started back in 2016. I was hired at Starbucks.
Okay.
So I'm from Starbucks. I had a passion for coffee, more like the people.
Right.
And the coffee became like an art. So coffee, everybody's just like, coffee's coffee. Coffee is not just coffee. Trust me. There's different brews. There's different way to, roast it, different caffeine content, different ways to pair. And in order for me to continue on my Starbucks career or path that I wanted to pursue before, all this happened, they made me go to coffee college.
Okay.
So they had a coffee master program. And what drove me to that was a black apron. The only thing was the black apron. As you can tell.
You like black.
Black, right? And so I hated the green apron, and I wanted to be different. Once again, I just have to be different. So I was like, all right, it can't be too hard, right? Getting a black apron. It took me 9 months, almost a whole year, to get my coffee knowledge, to get my black apron.
Really?
It was a nonstop studying, testing this, doing a lot of... what do they call them? Coffee pairings. So I had to do a lot of coffee pairs with my fellow baristas, my manager, my store manager. And even before I got my black apron, I had to do a coffee tasting with my district manager.
So the coffee pairing, is that is that what it sounds like? That it's
pairing
pairs with something else,
Correct.
like a food or something? So
Correct.
It's almost like a wine,
yes, kind of like a wine
this coffee goes well with this food.
Exactly like that.
Okay.
So
I never even really thought about that.
It gets deep. And I mean, most of our blonde roast, so the ones that aren't roasted as long, they have a yellowish tint to their beans, which is funny. The longer they roast, the more they lose their caffeine content. So the darker the roast, the less caffeine. But the lighter the roast, the less coffee taste you'll taste, but the more caffeine.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Right?
And I guess that's why I'm here to educate myself on some coffee.
And the blonde roast is actually paired very well with fruit. So oranges, lemons, Like, you pair that with a lemon cake, it is phenomenal. Or a lemon poppy seed muffin. It brings out the boldness of the blonde roast.
And kind of talking about that, like, I mean, for a second there, I wanted to say like 50 different things because we had discussed a little bit, had a little bit of a conversation. And I was kind of mentioning earlier that, like, when I came in, I could just see, like, your passion for it. And, like, I have a passion for talking to people and learning. And that's always good because when you get two people that are passionate, and they could be completely different things, but you can figure out a way to collaborate with one another, right? And I mean, obviously, we're sitting here, there's coffee, but then there's also the paranormal side to it also, which is pretty interesting. And I think we'll get into that a little bit too. But I never really thought about the coffee pairing. The kind of coffee college that you had to go to, is there like one, or is there like several locations?
There's actually it's online, so it's online courses and books. So Starbucks had a program. They do ASU, so a lot of their work was actually from ASU, and it's all linked together in a way. It was like online, and you could just they'll send you the books to the store, and you would read up on it, you'll study that, and then your store manager will give you these tests, and they'll sign off on it. Okay,
so I don't want to get too much into the the Starbucks, that portion, but just out of curiosity, so when you get your black apron, is that like something that people look at and they're like,
well,
oh, they're pretty educated?
Now it's not a thing, so that's what made me upset. So the Coffee Master Program was actually done away 2 years after I got my black apron. No one was able to get their black apron anymore, and if any of the store managers had any left, they just gave them out.
Oh. Well, that loses all of the fun, right? Like, because now you're proud because you're like, it took me 9 months to get here, and now they're just giving them away, and it's like, well,
I learned that when going to Florida to visit some family. I went into the downtown Disney, or the Disney Springs now, my bad, to their Starbucks. And one of the main guys that took my order had a Coffee Master apron. I was like, oh, okay, quick chat. Let me see how long it took him to get this apron. And so I was like, hey, how long did it take you for your Coffee Master apron? He was like, huh? I was like, your apron you're wearing. He's like, oh, this? I was like, yeah. He's like, my manager just gave me this. I'm like, oh, really? And my heart, you could probably hear it across the room. My husband was looking at me, and he just shook his head because he knew right away that I was just going to cry at that point.
It means something to you. Know what it took to get that, right? And that was kind of part of your journey to get there. And then when you hear that somebody else is kind of just giving it to them, like, you're just like, oh man, this. I mean, you know what it is, what value that is, but then somebody else.
And the longer partners do, like say the older partners who started around the same time I did, they know. But the newer partners, because my sister started in Starbucks, she's no longer there either, but wasn't her cup of tea, but she tried, and that's like 4 years after I had started, and she hadn't even heard of it.
But now you just wear all black all the time, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're a master coffee connoisseur, aficionado.
Yeah, exactly. Or I call him a caffeine cleric.
Okay. So, earlier you mentioned, kind of like about the pairing and the roasting, and there's so much to the whole process of coffee, right? So we kind of talked a little bit earlier, and I was just wondering about the roasting process. You guys have a company that actually does the roasting for you, right?
Correct. It is out of Macon, and it is a company called Z Beans. So it's about 2 hours from the store, and they will roast any type of flavor. They do the infusions into the beans, so like the aromafied. So we have pumpkin. We keep it here in store. It's pumpkin and toasted marshmallow. So we have that, and then we just have our typical dark roast.
Okay.
So we don't want to get too large because we don't know how it was going to do here in store.
Right.
So we start off with the small ones, but hopefully later on we can invest in a blonde roast and a medium roast.
Sure, and it's kind of part of like what the customers want, right? If you're trying to force something on them, I mean, it's not going to go so well. But
and the reason why I picked dark roast, it's not as much as caffeine, but it's more like the boldness taste. There's a lot more to pair with dark roast rather than a medium or a blonde roast. So I picked the dark roast, and plus
black, right?
Black, right? It works. So, and the toasted marshmallow and pumpkin goes really well with a dark roast. So we wanted kind of more of like a Halloween type version year round.
Right.
So kind of speaks autumn to me.
Yeah, and kind of expanding to that, one of the things is, like you said, there's so much in coffee, so somebody could roast the beans, but that's not the end, right? Because, I mean, now you got to figure out the combination, like what's going to pair well, or what's going to, even putting in the coffee, the drink itself,
Correct.
to make it taste good. Because you might be like, oh, they're doing all the work roasting it. It's like, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's
Once
going
it
to be...
comes into our store, it's a whole other process that we got to do. I mean, there's different ways to even grind the beans to be able to put them into our machines.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a typical grind amount that you're going to have to figure out to be able to fit into the machines. Like our drip coffee.
Right.
Takes a type of ground. Our cold brew, you can't grind it on a normal fine press.
Okay.
You got to grind it on coarse. So it's got to be the thickest coarse of beans. So the larger the chunks of beans, and that's how you make cold brew. Okay,
so now I know what that is, and I haven't known what it is for a long time. But for those people that don't know what a cold brew is, can you kind of explain exactly what it is, so the process?
Cold brew is one of my favorites, and it's really fun to make. You can make it at home as long as you have a grinder at home. And I recommend dark roast. Typically, a cold brew is actually a medium roast, but the dark roast is more bolder. So I prefer that because cold brew itself is already bold. So why not make it just bolder?
Right.
But you can make any type of roast into cold brew. It's more about how you let it sit. It's more stout. So, you know, it's got to sit in room temperature and just kind of brew. It's got to solidify and all that. So you put it, you grind it, and it's going to be like on a French press. So it's hot, like very coarse you can get. Put it in a filter. And that filter, you have to have like we do it in our Cambro back there, the green thing. And so we do a filter and we pour all the grounds into it. And then you tie it up and you do water. So it's got to sit in your room temperature water. It can't be cold because then it's not going to brew correctly.
Okay.
So it's got to be room temp, and it sits and brews for about between 15 and 18 hours is a good cold brew. The longer it sits, the more stout, the more bold it's going to get. So if you want it more stout, let it sit longer. But don't let it go over 30 hours.
So for a cold brew, is that going to have more caffeine than like a hot one?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, because it's sitting there for so long and it's kind of like pulling everything out of the bean?
It is, correct.
Okay.
It is caffeinated. It's one of the most caffeinated drinks other than our iced espresso that we can offer here that's caffeinated.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like when I came in last week, then I tried that cold brew. It kind of seemed like I had a little bit too much caffeine.
That's what I run off of.
Yeah.
I'm drinking it 24/7. Drinking it now. I mean, it was bad when I worked at Starbucks. I would go through four or five cold brews a day.
Wow.
Large.
I've wondered like how some people can do that, because for me, like too much caffeine, it kind of, you get the jitters, or it's just almost, sometimes I'll get tired because I've had it too much.
That works too. At one point, I was getting so bad I was drinking all the time. It was actually making me tired. And I wasn't getting my caffeine energy back no more.
Yeah.
You know?
Like I could drink a cup of coffee and I could go to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be playing Xbox at night, and it can be 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, all right, I'll be back. I'm going to get me some coffee. They're like, huh? Coffee? At 10 o'clock at... Yeah. And I can go right to sleep literally an hour later. Like nothing. It's just water.
Right.
It's bean water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, Haunted Grounds Coffee. I mean, it would be wrong for us not to talk about the name. Like, obviously, Haunted Grounds. I love the name because it's a double meaning, right? Because you're talking about coffee grounds and then the grounds here.
Correct.
Are these grounds haunted where we are right here?
They are. We have at least 3 different spirits that we know of. That's not counting the ones that could be back there with our haunted objects that will be open to the public here soon. It's not done yet.
Okay.
But we do have a museum that is being in the works right now. It's going to have some oddities and some antiques and our haunted objects that we get from different families that don't want the object anymore. So like when we go to an investigation, we find the root of the problem.
Right.
It could be an object. You know, spirits are known to attach themselves to objects. And so we will take that object if they want to. You know, we won't take it unless they are okay with it. But we'll take it off of their hands and they have a home here.
You don't lock them in that vault right there?
No, actually, our equipment's over there. We lock our equipment
So
up.
this used to be a bank, though, you were saying, right? So that's like the original vault right there with all the safety deposit boxes in there. So what was the reason for starting a coffee company? You were involved in the paranormal before the coffee, and then what was the what the driving force for starting a coffee shop or store or what? I don't. It's a kind of it doubles as two things, right?
It does. There's a bunch of factors that play into this. Of course, my love for coffee I was able to give, part of the team and the other owners a way to make extra money. But so we just needed a way to get in with the community. So Midway here didn't have much of anything. And whenever their only coffee shop closed down, they're like, well, what are they going to have now?
Right.
They don't have another place to come meet, to come hang out. I was like, we kind of need to see if we can open it back up. And so there had been talks before where Patrick was wanting to open up like a shop of some sort, whether it's, alcohol, which could be happen down the road.
Right.
Or coffee, and so with me being on the team and my knowledge of coffee, like, go ahead, it's actually really easy, starting off. Now, the driving force was more or less probably the community. So I have to give it to that. But it's also brought us together more as a team. So we've learned all of our tips and, tricks of the trade from each other. Mm-hmm. So I've never run a business before, but I have the coffee shop knowledge. So each one of us, all the owners, have different things to bring to the table. So with using each of our abilities, we were able to throw together this business.
And that's kind of like the collaboration part of it, right? You have a
Correct.
love for coffee, then also paranormal. But Patrick's, he's been doing the paranormal thing for a while.
Oh, yeah. Since the beginning of, right before COVID happened, the team was established with him, his brother-in-law, his dad, and his best friend. So they all started it. And, when COVID happened, he said that family and friends, were dying. And, it's now or never, basically is what he says. And that's what he tells everybody. So,
yeah, I mean, like when you want to start something, me personally, start the podcast and stuff, I always wanted to try to perfect it, and it's never going to happen. You just got to it's now or never, he said, you just got to do it.
Push yourself to do it.
Because you don't know, number one, if you're going to be here tomorrow, right?
Exactly.
And I mean, I feel like it doesn't matter what you do, what your passion is, you can inspire or educate other people that might not otherwise, maybe they're not interested in the paranormal, or they thought about it, and they're like, you know what, I've never gone out to try to find the information, but now there's this spot where I can go get some coffee, I can hear some stories.
And that's what we wanted. We wanted to slowly introduce, the community into paranormal.
Right.
I mean, it's become a bigger thing now. It's spirits, they're all around us, no matter if you believe it or not. They're just electricity. That's why we can use what we use, the tools, in order to, find them.
Right.
So it's all around us.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, when we lived up in Maryland, we had done some kind of ghost hunts or investigations up in Gettysburg a couple times, and it was pretty interesting. Saw some stuff, heard some stuff, caught on audio.
Yep, that's jealous. I love Gettysburg. Some
places that were there, during the Civil War, houses that were there, which there's not a lot left, but they were there. But it's a very interesting, and like you said, it could be, adrenaline fueling.
It is.
And
that's how I feel. I get that adrenaline boost as soon as we get word that we have an investigation coming up. I get so excited. That's the first thing that Patrick and some of the team members, when we went on our first investigation together, I mean, I was just all pumped. I was ready to go, full of energy, and I'm not an energetic person. I sit at home and I play Xbox.
Yeah.
After I get done working, that's all I do. So I don't
Unless
go
you're
outside.
Drinking coffee?
Yeah, or drinking coffee. I mean, I'm drinking coffee while I'm playing.
Right.
So, but I was full of energy. I would not shut up. But
well, it could be a good thing.
It is.
Right now, I mean.
I know when when to shut up
Right.
during investigations, but I talk. That's all I did.
Yeah.
But see, before joining the team, I had knowledge beforehand on how to use the equipment and, how to go about this. So it wasn't my first rodeo per se,
Right.
but it was my first investigation of actually dealing with other people and actually getting to use the proper equipment.
Now, the investigations that you do, it's for families, like kind of like you mentioned, like maybe they have an object or some kind of activity that's going on in the house that's kind of driving them nuts or there's just terrifying them, right?
Correct.
And they need a team to come in and kind of investigate that and come to the root of the problem, right?
That's
And
what we're there for.
stuff like that, is that something that y'all do as kind of like, is there a cost to it, or is it something where you come in and you want to do an investigation to really find out what's going on?
So we don't charge for any type of investigation. What we do is we just want to make sure that the families or the businesses are comfortable. So we want to make sure that they're happy, that their problems aren't going to be there no more. So that's, again, the driving force behind the paranormal team. We want to make sure not only do they understand, but they're safe.
Right.
Because some of these spirits do get really aggressive and, it can be harmful for the families. And so we actually have emergency investigations sometimes, say if a child's involved or it's, harming the family, that's an emergency.
Okay.
And so our team A, because our paranormal team is actually split into 3 different teams. Our team A, which is me including the other owners and a couple other people, are on team A. And so we're able to drop everything what we're doing and go to that family that's in need.
And so that kind of goes to the community part of it. And plus, like, I wanted to also mention, like, all of the artwork in here is done by local artists, right?
Correct.
So, and they're for sale.
They are for sale.
And
everything in here is for sale. All the art pieces, including we have some more stuff over there by local artists.
I saw like the bags. It's almost like, is it like I want to say it's a grocery bag. It's almost like a reusable bag,
it's a canvas
right?
bag.
Canvas bag, right? And it's got the artwork on it, which is pretty cool. Kind of look like maybe there was one with like a sugar skull on it or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
we have Jack and Sally right now. We have Coraline, and we have the sugar skulls that are for sale right now. It's by a local artist named Laura, and she is actually doing our upcoming sip and paint on October 10th.
Nice.
So that's going to be our first ever sip and paint. We're excited. Something new, and that's something, again, to have the community to do something around here. There's not much to do around Midway. And so I was pretty happy when she wanted to, I want to do a sip and paint. I said, yeah, bring it on. Let's see. And everybody else agreed on the team, and they're like, yeah, sip and paint sounds really cool. It's a way to get someone's attention.
Right.
Not only to the coffee shop, but to have them to be able to do something around here.
And then don't you also do like classes?
We do. So every other weekend, or towards the end of a month, we're not sure how long we're going to be doing them as per se, but whenever we've had a lot of people ask for investigations and classes. So we just hosted this past Saturday 3 investigations in one day.
Oh, wow.
So we did one at 6 because we closed the shop at 4. So we did one at 6, and they're 2 hours for the investigation. So 6 to 8 and 8 to 10, and then we had a late night one that started from 11 to 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. It's pretty
and
late.
I didn't stay for that one because I had to open the shop the next morning.
Oh, okay.
But Patrick and Sarah, some of our other owners, stayed, and they told me that they had an amazing night. So they caught a lot of things that were going on here. Everybody was very thrilled with what type of stuff they captured.
That's cool.
And there's a lot of activity here.
Yeah.
You get used to it when you're here long enough, and I'm pretty sure they're sick of me too for being in here, but you get used to it.
Now, what about as far as stories? I'm sure like somebody's want to come in here, get some coffee, and hear some cool stories. Do you have any like personal stories that you could share?
Well, I have to admit, I believe in spirits and ghosts, of course, but I was very skeptic with the way a spirit could touch or, hurt somebody until this happened to me. And then I'm a firm believer. I actually got bit.
Really?
I got bit, and I can show you the picture. It's on my phone. But we were actually investigating the River Street Inn. They had called us, and they were having problems on the 4th and 5th floor of the hotel. And it was a child spirit. A little girl and a little boy both was said to take things, hide things, run around the halls, laughing, cutting up, all that. And they're like, what's going on, So we just went there to see what we could capture and see what type of answers we could get. And I woke up Saturday morning because we had spent Friday and Saturday night. So this happened Friday night onto Saturday morning. I woke up really early, me and Sarah, because we were staying in the same room, 504, which is one of the haunted rooms of River Street. And we had nothing happen to us that night. But I woke up the next morning and I had like not a sharp pain, but a numbing feel to the back of my arm. Figured I slept on it wrong. So I went into the bathroom and I started, getting ready. And I went to stretch. And whenever I did, I stretched a certain way and I saw like this red mark on my arm. And I'm like, what is this? And so I look in the mirror and I start getting upset. Not the fact that I was scared. The fact I was more like pissed that the spirits were to do this to me without me knowing. So I legit had a child's bite mark on the back of my arm right here. And you can clearly see it. The teeth marks and everything were outlined. And
Wow.
Sarah was lost for words whenever I showed her that. And so it was actually sore. But other than that, it stayed for maybe like an hour or so and it went away.
And I could be wrong, but I think most people would be more afraid of like a child spirit than an adult, because you would think a child's usually afraid of you, and if they're not, they must be pretty scary.
So there's a thing. There are a lot of child spirits. We actually have one here. We're not sure if it's a boy or a girl, but we do know it's a child, and it's very mischievous. It moves things. It will throw things, and we see them all the time. They're about 4 foot tall. They're pretty short, but we see them constantly over there in our stock room in the vault area. But there's been just some sayings behind the children spirits of what they actually are. Sometimes, yeah, they're children spirits, but that's one thing we do look out for as investigators, is that some children spirits aren't really children spirits at all. They, evil entities are known to disguise themselves as children to be able to, you're more...
Gotcha. Kind of like a wolf in sheep's
wolf
clothing.
and sheep, yep, exactly. So that's one thing we have to look out for. Is it really a child, or are we dealing with something more malevolent
Right.
than what we were expecting? So that's just one thing we have to look out for. But this was clearly a child, as it did bite me.
Yeah.
And it was moving some things around in our hotel room. And funny thing is, I didn't know this until reviewing our evidence. So I'm a little bit in charge of the evidence afterwards. So I take all the hard drives and all the cameras and everything and upload them to my computer, and I start going over evidence to see hours of what now we've captured. I was reviewing a footage because we split into teams, and this time me and Sarah, who are usually together, she's usually my partner, this time we actually went our separate ways into 2 different groups. So she went into our room in 504, and me and my team, the team I was a part of, went into another room on the 3rd floor that was haunted. And so apparently the camera was recording everything that they were talking about up there, and as I was reviewing the evidence, Sarah had actually invited the spirit to stay in our room and visit us throughout the night.
Really?
Yes. And so I blame her. Jokingly, I'm not like mad.
Right.
I find it funny, but I find it funny that she did that and it actually happened. It just went after me instead of her for some reason. But reviewing the evidence, Sarah's like, we're going to be staying here tonight. You can come in, and because we had our Boo bear. And so we have a teddy bear, which is more likely, kids are more likely to touch something they're more familiar with,
Right.
which is what we use the teddy bears for children's spirits or someone who's, not mentally capable of it.
Right.
So it depends on what we're working with. We'll use the Boo bears, and so it's a EMF detector and a motion sensor. And our upgraded one actually is an investigator of its own. So we'll ask questions, it reacts to temperature, but the one we had was actually just a regular bear and it detected temperature and it would go off if something were to change. So we had that in our room and Sarah's like, we have some toys here you can play with while we're gone. We had the camera going and everything, and she invited the spirit in to play with the bear in the middle of the night, and it just so happened to bite me. So I blame Sarah for that one.
So you said the EMF, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the electromagnetic
field.
Field.
Correct.
Okay. So like a spirit is going to have a certain field to it because you kind of talked about, it's kind of like you said electricity, right?
It is.
So
spirits are just basically balls of electricity.
Right. So is it like based on their size, would you say, like the field, or?
It is based on how powerful a being is.
Okay.
So the stronger the EMF were to go off, the capable of things that the spirit is able to do. So say our EMF detector is able to go up to orange or red. That's one of the highest, hits we can get on an EMF detector. And that can actually, that's where spirits are able to move things. So it takes a lot of energy from a spirit to be able to move a piece of paper.
Right.
Because it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
And so with all those electricity, we're able to determine what and all the spirit is capable of doing.
Yeah, because you have like a solid object, right? And then you're trying to take this energy that's, moving. Yeah, because really anything's going to be either like matter or energy,
Correct.
Right? Everything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's either matter or energy. So, and it's just a matter of that, just a matter of that energy acting on that matter, right?
Yep. And that's when we're dealing with a spirit that's strong enough to be able to move something, it's able to set off our equipment pretty rough. And sometimes it even drain our batteries. So that's why we carry extra battery packs and extra batteries, because there's been times where I would have a completely charged camera and I would go in and start recording one of our investigations, and our spirit would actually just drain it because it needs that energy to be able to like even show itself. So, a shadow or an orb, that's energy in itself, and that takes a lot of energy for a spirit to be able to show itself. So the manifestation of a spirit is all it can do sometimes. So it can show itself for 2 seconds, and all the energy it has, gone.
Really?
So what's it going to
quick?
drain? It's going to drain our cameras, our phones, or even us. Like there's a thing that they call a paranormal hangover, where after an investigation, spirits will sit there and drain all your energy, and you'll feel like literally you have a hangover from the next day because you're so just drained.
I must have spirits like messing with me all the time then.
Could be. Me too. Why do you think I drink cold brew?
Right, and all day long, right?
Being here is draining.
If somebody's going to come in, what are they going to find?
Well, we do have the big kit, which is the specialty drinks, which can come frozen or iced. And so we have the Midway Massacre, which is basically a chocolate-covered strawberry. And all of these standardly will come with coffee. But if you're not a coffee person, you want to take it out, that's fine. We can do it cream-based. We have the Midway Massacre, which was the strawberry and the chocolate. We have the Fresno Nightcrawler, which is a cryptid. It's in California, in Fresno. And they're basically an alien, per se, but they're pants. Kind of like fuzzy pants. So they have no head. It's just a body with legs.
Really?
Yes. And it is one of my favorite cryptids ever. I actually have a friend that's out of Fresno, and I'm constantly asking him and his wife hey, have you seen the Fresno Nightcrawlers yet? But that's kind of why I based off the drink. So when you think of where they're at, California, I think California as kind of, the beach.
Right.
So you got the coconut, and what's something that goes good with coconut? Well, that's white chocolate. And to make it even better, caramel. So caramel and white mocha. So you got the caramel, the white mocha, and the coconut. Good combination. I think it screams Fresno Nightcrawler to me. So that's another drink. We have the Jersey Devil's Delight. So that's a shout out to Miss Sharon. Miss Sharon, you'll see her here on the weekends sometimes. She's also the mistress of the manor out at the haunted house. She wanted a Devil's Delight. She loves her, what's it called, Fireball. So she wanted it kind of, can't serve alcohol,
Right.
but she wanted the cinnamon. And I was like, all right, well, what pairs good with cinnamon? I was like, chocolate and cinnamon. You got that kind of like hot chocolate type in a way.
Right.
So you didn't want to call it the Devil's Delight. So I was like, all right, what's another cryptid we can do? Jersey Devil. It's out of New Jersey. The Jersey Devil is actually half goat, half eagle, half lion, per se. It's the story behind it is the woman was giving birth to her 13th child. It was a witch, and she didn't want to have this kid. So again, it was her 13th one, and she wanted the child to go to the devil himself because she didn't want nothing to do with it. Well, that's what happened. The child, she gave birth to this devil or this demon, and it has been haunting New Jersey's forest since it started in like 1883, I think is when it originated.
So that's what's wrong with New Jersey.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. No, nothing against New Jersey at all.
So that's where that comes
But I
from.
like how you've set the drinks up. Like you've actually there's a thought
story
process
behind it.
and a story behind
Definitely.
the drinks. I like that.
So that's where the Jersey Devil's Delight. It's cinnamon mocha. Again, with coffee if you want it. And then you got the ghost face. Ghost face is one of my favorite killers. I love Scream. So I was like, all right, I've got to do something with one of my favorite horror movies. And I was like, black and white mocha. You've heard of the tuxedo mocha or the penguin mocha.
Right.
I was like, black and white mocha. We just call it the ghost face here. It's our version of the black and white mocha. So it's just white mocha and mocha. It's kind of like a milk chocolate is how you would describe it.
Yeah, I probably would have never figured these things out if I would have looked at. I mean, I read the menu, but it just didn't. For me, it didn't click.
Just like they're just names.
Right.
And then you got Lizard Man Swamp. So this one was more dedicated to Patrick, and I am from South Carolina. So Patrick had his first ever cryptid encounter, not only with Bigfoot, but with Lizard Man. Lizard Man is actually out of Lee County, South Carolina, and there's been a lot of sightings over the years. He is said to be a crocodile human type thing, and he destroys cars. He wreaks havoc on all the neighborhoods around Lee County. And the first ever sighting was actually a police officer doing his night duties, and it attacked his police car.
Lee County, South Carolina, huh?
Correct.
So I'll stay away from there.
Yeah, it's pretty strange over there too. So Patrick could tell you more about his Lizard Man story. He was young. I think he was fishing. The way he tells the story is hilarious. So that's something you can talk to him about. It's funny. This one is the Haddonfield Halloween. Of course, another one of my favorite horror movies. And Patrick's a big Halloween fan. He loves Michael Myers. So I was like, all right, we're going to do something with Michael Myers. So Haddonfield Halloween. Haddonfield is where, you grew up. So that's more dedicated to the Halloween fan base.
Okay.
So, and then you just got the teas, which is also on our specialty menu.